It's been 14 years since my brother went missing. 14 years since I got the news he didn't come home from school. That he'd wandered off into the woods and no one found him. It's been 14 years without any answers. I'm 21 now. My parents moved out of the house and left it to me. They couldn't stand living there, but they didn't want to uproot me again. Evan and I sat on my back porch smoking pot. It was October 13th, exactly 14 years since I moved to this town today, and we were celebrating the only way we knew how. You want to go for a walk in the woods? I asked him. Yeah, he barely got out. He'd been smoking long before he got to my place. He pulled himself out of the lawn chair and we started walking back towards the woods. We came to a familiar spot, the spot where Willie wanted to build the treehouse. In his memory, I started one and never finished it. I looked up at the pathetic excuse for a treehouse. It was about 4 boards nailed to 2 outstretched limbs. I didn't know what to think. I was tired. I was high as hell, and just as depressed as the first day I got here. Don't get me wrong, there have been good times in between me and Evan and several other friends I've made. I mean, hell, tonight we were having a party. Why we were partying? Because we could. We were 21. Who cared? Evan sat down on the moist ground and laid back against a tree. Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm fucking stoned. I smiled. Usually when smoking pot, I felt giggly. This time, not so much. I was trying to cheer myself up, and Evan saw that I was bummed out. Hey man, let's just go inside and get some drinks. You don't need to be tormenting yourself like this. He said, yeah, I think you're right. I grabbed his arm and helped him up. We walked back to the house, the wind getting colder. That same October breeze from 14 years ago. That's when I felt it. Something was looking at me. Something deep in the pines was looking at me. I turned back and stared into the dark forest for a moment. I shook it off and walked inside. The sun was almost down and our party guests would be arriving soon. We had to start getting ready. I stood in the kitchen at the sink washing dishes. I wasn't even really washing them. I was just running hot water over them and zoning out. Evan was walking back and forth from the kitchen to the living room, setting out drinks on a table we had set up near the fireplace. I set the last glass down, dried off my hands with the towel that sat by the sink. I'm gonna be right back, I said. Evan nodded as he laid out several brands of liquors. I hiked up the wooden steps that led upstairs to the bedroom area. I was walking to my bedroom to grab a very special bottle of liquor I'd been saving for a special occasion. I stopped. My room was at the end of the hall. Willie's room was right next to mine. His door had been closed for 14 years. Not a single person went in there. The room was a time capsule from the early 2000s. For some reason, his door was open. I didn't have the heart to look in his room. I couldn't. My pulse sped up as I reached for the knob. I closed my eyes and slammed it shut. I let out a hurried sigh. Seeing his room open like that made me want to throw up. Today hadn't been going well. Nothing's been going well these last couple days leading up to the anniversary of Willie's disappearance. I was so tired. I hadn't been sleeping. Evan had essentially moved in with me knowing that I was going through a rough time and he didn't want to see anything happen to me or me harm myself in any way. I walked into my room and dug under my bed, looking for the bottle. Eventually I found something glass and cylindrical. Jim Beam's Devil Cut. It did feel good knowing I was going to be completely out of my mind in a couple hours. I heard a car door slam. I got it, I heard Evan say from downstairs. I heard some happy greeting of some sort downstairs from a female's voice. Sarah. I was really hoping she wouldn't come. Part of me was really excited given the fact that I had in recent years developed a bit of a crush on her since she started hanging out with me and Evan again. But I didn't want her to see me like this. I didn't care if she saw me drunk or stoned, but not depressed. This wasn't her burden. Hours later, the party was underway. I had about 30 people in my house. I was surrounded by my best friends, and, well, friends of friends that I didn't really know, but the point is they were still there. I felt absolutely miserable. I sat on the couch alone as everyone moved from room to room talking, pouring alcohol, going outside to smoke. The music was loud. Why did I have a party tonight? Why did I have a bunch of people around? I just want to be alone. Suddenly, someone plopped down next to me on the couch. I am so drunk right now, Sarah said, leaning her head against me. Yeah, I'm getting there. Even intoxicated, she knew something was wrong. Hey, cheer up. I've been trying, I sighed. She looked at me with a glazed look in her eye. Her pupils dilated. She grabbed my hand. She started taking me upstairs. But then suddenly, we heard a crashing noise from outside. Fuck, I said. As I was going to check the noise out, 2 guys ran inside. Ted and Ernie. Fucking burnouts. Probably spooked themselves. Dude, we got a problem. Ernie said, almost panicking. There's like a bear outside or something, man. I don't know what's going on, but there's a fucking bear outside. Oh man, it was huge. It came out of the tree line and just, like, stared at us. There's something wrong with it, man. We gotta call the cops, man, or animal control or something. Okay, Ernie, we're not calling the cops. You're stoned out of your mind, along with half the people here. Let me go take a look. It may not be a bear, we don't know what it is. Dude, I think it's a bear, man. I mean, I really didn't see it, but there's something out there, dude. I'll take care of it, I said. I figured it was best that I went, considering I only had a couple drinks, and my high had long disappeared. Hold on, dude. I'm coming, Evan said, getting up. Evan and I walked out into the cool night air from my backyard. We walked to the edge of my property, where the shed was. We kept 2 hunting rifles in there. I withdrew the keys to the shed from my pocket. For a moment I fumbled in the darkness, but I eventually took care of it and opened the lock. I leaned in the old musty, mildew-smelling shed and pulled 2 hunting rifles out. Knowing that Evan wasn't quite in his right state of mind, I made him walk in front of me. We walked to the tree line and looked around. Why didn't we bring a flashlight? Evan said. God damn it. I didn't think to. I think part of me was just showing off for Sarah. Hold on, man. Evan pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight app. He then stuck it between his belt and his pants to keep it steady. Here we go. He stepped lazily into the pine forest. Hey, Evan. I'm not really seeing anything, man. Yeah, me neither. Evan fired his gun in the air a couple times. That should scare off any wild animals nearby. Then, suddenly there was that crippling feeling, that same horrifying cold chill that ran down my spine when I thought I was being watched earlier. Something was in the darkness. Something was staring at me. Hello? I yelled out. No answer. Evan. Yeah, I heard it too. Evan was clutching his gun so tight, his knuckles were white. He took one hand off the gun and motioned forward with 2 fingers like they'd do in the military. We moved slowly towards where he was pointing to. Guns at the ready. One last chance! I yelled. Then we heard it. It was a strange, purring sound. It was as if something was purring with a series of clicks among it. We heard it again and fired into the darkness. That's no bear, Evan said. We walked further into the darkness. After about 10 minutes of walking, we found the yellow stake signifying that we had reached the edge of my property. I swear to God, this gets shorter and shorter every time I see it. Your property might extend sideways, man. Evan, how much have you smoked? I'm up there. I rolled my eyes. Alright, we need to head back to the house. We've been gone almost a half an hour. As we walked through the woods, I never shook that cold, spine-tingling feeling that something was watching me. The moment we broke the tree line back into my backyard, that feeling had gone, almost completely. I looked around. It seemed the party had died down a little bit. There were a lot fewer cars than there were earlier. I didn't even care anymore. I was cold, I was tired, and I was depressed. When I walked back in the house, Sarah came running up to me. Holy shit, you guys are alive! Yeah, of course we're alive. We've been gone maybe 20 minutes at the most. Dude, you've been gone like 3 hours. My eyes widened. We weren't out in the woods for 3 hours. We couldn't have been. I looked at my watch. When we left the house, it was 8:45. It was now 11:30. The fuck? Could also account for why I was feeling tired. I was up very early that day. Hour after hour dragged by and all I wanted to do was go to sleep, but I couldn't. I had a house full of people. As the hours went on, the party died down. Eventually, it was just me, Evan, and Sarah. Alright, what's been bothering you? Sarah, shut up. Evan said, don't pry him. It's kind of a shitty day. Well, that was yesterday, she said, motioning towards the clock. Evan rolled his eyes. He was on the verge of sleep. I sighed. It's the 14th. Yeah? And? This is the day my brother went missing. We sat in an awkward silence for a couple minutes, and then Sarah suddenly hugged me. Get some sleep, she said. We'll both be here in the morning. I took her advice. I shambled upstairs. Good night, I yelled back down. Good night, I heard Sarah say. I assumed Evan was already sleeping. That night I had horrible, horrible dreams. But one dream in particular stood out. In this dream, I was a child again. I was walking through my house, but it looked different, really different, as if someone else was living there. Though the house was fully furnished with someone else's furniture, it didn't look like the furniture got much use. There was a thick layer of dust on everything. I heard talking coming from upstairs. It was hard for me to make anything out because the person was talking so fast and so quietly. I slowly walked up the staircase. My feet didn't seem to make a sound. I was like a ghost in this house. In the bedroom, which would now be my bedroom, a man sat at a desk, scribbling indistinctly in a journal. I could barely understand what he was saying. Suddenly, there was a tapping noise at the window. He sat straight up. Yes, what now? He said. the voice at the window said. For some reason, I couldn't get any further in the room. I was paralyzed, but he was clearly talking to something out that window. I can't get any more. The police were here the other day. They know. Okay, let me get the ones from the basement, and that'll be the end of it, okay? He suddenly got up from his chair and ran past me, not even noticing me. He ran down the flight of stairs. He ran to the front end of the house where the kitchen was and flung open the basement door. He ran down. I followed him. There were children in cages. About 6 or 7, I think. It's time, he said. He had each child extend their arm from the cage, and he injected them with something. They went limp in seconds. One by one, he'd drag them outside and lay them at the edge of the pines. And then he'd take one of them and walk them deep into the pine forest. It would take him about 10 minutes to get back, and then he'd grab another one. And he repeated this until all children are in the woods. On the last one, I followed him. He was laying them in some sort of circle. Here, I'll be number 7, he said. He laid down with them. Suddenly, Conrad Willems looked directly at me. Find my journal, he said. A voice from right behind me said. I suddenly woke up in a cold sweat. Something told me that wasn't just a dream.